Hello, I'm Suzanne Woodop, and I'm going to be walking you through a malware case using the VERIS web application. This is going to be using the VERIS Community Database Project public dataset, and these are all publicly disclosed data breaches if you're not familiar. So I have basically gone through, as an example, I have sorted them by the ones that are assigned to me, and then the label I chose was malware, so that we would be looking at all the same things. Because one of the things that I want to point out is that if you are using this and you have a number of cases assigned to you, there is a very nice feature that makes doing multiples at a time much easier, and so you can be more productive using this web application. So we're going to use this one, and I'm opening it in a new tab so I don't have to keep refreshing this. And this should be just your basic ransomware case, I expect. And so we need to open it up in a new window so that I can see what it actually is about. We see professional healthcare management notifies stakeholders of data security incidents. So this is just a press release about it. They were the victim of a sophisticated ransomware attack. Isn't it funny how anytime these organizations are a victim, it is a sophisticated kind of an attack? Because it would never do to say that you were, victim of a very simple, basic attack, would it? Okay, so it may include first name, last name, social security number, health insurance information, and the diagnosis codes. Okay, I think we have enough here to be able to code this. So we begin with starting a new issue. So if you've never used the VERIS web app before, you want to tell it the schema. For this, we are doing VCDB. And always choose the latest version, and I want to create an issue. Analyst is your GitHub name because I'm using VCDB. DBIR year is going to default to the current year since we have passed the cutoff for last year's. This is going to be for the 2023 DBIR. The GitHub issue number is this right here. And a summary. And I can't type. Ransomware incident. Security incident, it is confirmed as a security incident. The reference is going to be the URLs we have in the article. Now, if you have more than one URL in your article, or rather in your issue, you separate them with a semicolon and a space. We don't have any notes. Source is VCDB. Since I am doing this, it's going to be finalized. If you are doing this, you would put it in first pass so that we can review it. And we have high confidence. Okay, that's it for this page. You can do save and continue, and it'll go to the next thing. Incident for the timeline. So does it have a timeline? Oh, September 14th, they discovered it in 2021. So we're going to put 2021, and that's probably all we're going to have as far as the timeline goes, except for the discovery. We don't know the month. We know when they found it. We don't know the month and the date when it actually happened. And we don't know the unit of time. So while we have the date, we don't have the starting date, so we can't say how long it took them to find it. Same thing with a compromise and all that sort of thing. It's just not here. So we will save and continue to move on to the next one. Since this is VERIS Community Database, you will include the name of the organization. And I'm going to put the whole thing in there, just because that way if we're searching for it at some point, it's easier to do. And this is going to be NAICS code. It's in healthcare, which is 62. And it said they were in home healthcare services industry. They provide home healthcare services, which would be right here. We're going to call it this. Okay, locations affected. We don't know that. So employee count. I'm going to actually just take this part and see if we have anything in Google about number of employees. These are These are paid things, so you kind of sort of look down through here and see if you can find something. Here they're in Tennessee, and it says 26. It's really good if you can find a LinkedIn profile, but that's not theirs. I guess we'll go with small. So employee count, you have several choices. And assuming that 26 is anywhere near right, we could go with 11 to 100 and probably be okay. But just so you know, you also have something where it could be small, under 1,000, or large, over 1,000. Since it was that specific, then we're going to just go with this. It is not part of the government, and so you select NA here. Country is the United States, and you can do US or you can do United States. Pick it that way. Whatever you type gets overwritten. And that is North America. And did it say what state this was in? Tennessee, that's right. And you use the two-letter code, and it does need to be capitalized. Just FYI, if this is one of those where their partner information was also compromised and they had other companies, you would list the secondary victims in this section here. But since this is just the one, we aren't going to worry about anymore, and we don't have any more information here about that. So we will move on to the actions. We know that ransomware was involved. We don't know a whole lot else. We don't know how they got on. And we know the result. They were able to, I will say, exfiltrate, and certainly, well, no, deploying the payload would have been in the other. So the way we handle these is we don't know how they got on the system. We just know that they got the ransomware, right? We know that they got on the system somehow. So we're going to include an unknown action. And the result is going to be that they infiltrated and that they deployed the payloads. Okay? And that's going to take care of our actions here. Yes, chances are it could have been hacking, it could have been social, we don't know, so we're just going to say unknown. The actor is going to be external, and we don't know anything about them, so we're going to say unknown there too. Since it's ransomware, we're going to say the motive was very much financial. We do not know country. So you can either just leave this blank, or I believe there's an unknown here. Let's look at the bottom. Yes, there's an unknown here. Or you can leave it blank and it'll default for this field, not for all of them. And since we don't know anything about the region, we're going to leave that blank. We don't know their name, and move on to asset. They didn't really talk about what assets were compromised, did they? Restoring systems and operations, blah, 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 blah. They did say something about offering identity monitoring. So that's good to know for later because that comes up. But I don't see anything here that's going to talk necessarily about their servers. I would say it's a server, and it's probably a database server based on the kinds of information they got. But we can say server unknown just to be... Where is it? I know we have server unknown in here. Where is it hiding? You see all the different things we have. So we have... Where's server unknown? Oh, there it is. We don't know how many, so we leave that blank rather. We do not know the cloud status. It could have been cloud. It could have not been cloud. We do not know things like OS and such, but these are not. This one is starred, and so it's you need to actually select something. We know it's an IT role because that was keeping patient records. We don't know the country. We don't know how many. Let's go on to attributes, confidentiality. We don't know enough to say that it was in fact confirmed, so we're going to mark that as potentially. They did not say how many patients were affected. We do know that they got medical information, and that includes things like so we have a hierarchy of information categories, and normally we would put these under personal because it includes things like social security number, but since it also includes medical, that is a higher level of confidentiality expectation, and it will stand in for the personal as well. The data victim is going to be the patient. The state, I would say, would be unencrypted, or they would not have been able to get to it. Notes, nope. Data abuse, well, yes, because they probably took it. Well, we can't prove it. It was not partner data. And credit monitoring, it did say that they offered it. We did not know how far. Integrity, yes. We have obscuration. Where is it hiding? I'm missing it. Oh, no, that's the availability. So this is software installation, sorry. So for integrity, we have software installation for when they actually installed the malware. Variety, we have, for availability, we have obscuration, and that's when they triggered the malware. And save and continue. We don't know if it was targeted or opportunistic. Discovery method, we are going to say actor disclosure when they saw the ransom note. What things they had to develop for the value chain. Well, we know they had to get the ransomware. We don't really know a whole lot about non-distribution because we don't know much about how they got in. Targeting, the same thing. Distribution, we don't know enough about this to be able to choose any of these. Okay, so we move on to impact, which again we don't know anything very much about, and we are looking at the attack difficulty and IOCs and that sort of thing. We don't have that stuff, so we keep going. Now for the event chain, we know that the first event was an unknown action affecting a server. Okay, our second action is the malware. Again, the server, same actor. This time our attribute is going to be integrity. Now we're going to have malware, server, external, and availability. Encryption is triggered. And we can export the JSON. And if you want to see what it looks like, this is what the resulting JSON looks like. Okay. So we've gotten back to that. We can give it over to home, and now you can see you've got this here. We'll try this one. All right, this has two different ones. So the nice thing you can do with this new web app that we have here is you can copy and clone the incident. And the new incident, it tells you the new incident's name, so it's always going to be the one above the one that you had cloned, and then you can edit. And now you've got an incident that's very similar to the one you just did. And so the things you need to change include things like the GitHub ID. Oops. You'll need to change the references, because that's the links that you need to put in there. And remember, separate them with a semicolon and a space when you have multiple ones. And it's still a ransomware incident. All of this is the same. And we go on to the next one. Incident. Let's look at the year for these. Looks like it's still 2021. Okay, so they're affected. Program they had in place to stop the attack worked because it shut the system down, and that's how they knew they had of the attack. That's interesting. Did not know of a request because it shut it down, so it probably is some kind of integrity monitoring solution. And they're bringing them up one by one. Oh, interesting. It affected air conditioning. So we don't have any kind of a timeline in this one. Let's see what we have in the second one. It was September of 2021. It was employee data, it looks like. Ransomware attack occurred sometime during the last weekend of September 2021. Weekend of September 2021. September, the last weekend would have been the 25th or the 26th. So we're going to call it September 25th. Discovery, it sounds like, was fast. It was the same. We're going to go hours. We don't know how many. Containment is not the same thing as recovery. We don't really have a recovery time, which is kind of a bummer of how long it takes to recover from these things. Okay. Save and continue that. We need to change who the victim is. It is Lufkin Independent School District. I'm going to take Lufkin and let's see how many employees you have. It looks like 50. I love it when it does that for me, which means it falls in the same place. Industry is going to change. So we need NAICS code, and it's going to be in education. Elementary and secondary schools. Which is also not a government NAICS code. It is still in the US. Where are they located? Texas. Still North America. Oh, I only have to change one. Oops. And I don't have secondary victims on this one either. So again, it is malware. It is ransomware. It did not say how they got on, so we're going to leave it with the same pair of actions that we had before. And this is why this is so much faster when you're just cloning it, because you don't have to change all these things. You just have to make sure that they're still the same each time. Again, we don't know whether it was cloud or not. We do know that it was a server. We don't know that they took a copy, so we're going to say it's potentially at risk. It was not medical records, it was employee records, I believe they said. So we're going to go with personal information this time. And we're going to say this time it was employees, because they said they didn't think any staff information or any student information was affected. It's interesting, it also affected the cooling units. Maybe I'll put that in the assets, because it also affected the cooling. units. So we're going to call that I'm going to call that probably server other. I don't think it's a SCADA. So we have the variety as known, but we don't have it listed. We also don't have the amount, so that's how I'm going to handle that. Save and continue to be able to save that, and we were over on attribute, weren't we? So as I said, confidentiality, personal data, employee was the victim, stored unencrypted, or they wouldn't have gotten a copy. Not partner data. We do not know that they're offering credit monitoring on this one. Software installation again. Obscuration again. Targeted, we don't know. Discovery method. This time it was not the ransomware, they said. They said it was an internal program that noticed. So let's see. I'm not thinking it's an antivirus. I think it's probably this. That would make more sense based on what they said. The things are the same for this, I would say. We didn't have anything here or here. Event chain is also the same. And we have another JSON. You can also update it if you've finished it and then realized you needed to change it. You can just hit update. And that's the same thing when you would go here. You would hit edit. Once you select it, you would hit edit instead. So that's basically how you can be more efficient using the cloning issue ability here in our web app. And if you have a bunch of issues that you need to code, you can sort them by whatever your action is or whatever you find the easiest to sort to be able to clone them, and you can use them that way, and it can be quite useful. Hopefully this helps.